And today I'm joined by Andy. Andy, could you just introduce yourself and let people know a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. First of all, I'm excited to be with you here today. I'm looking forward to this discussion. My name is Andy Semichuk. I'm a U.S. and Canadian immigration attorney. I work in Toronto. A little bit about my background. I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I spent half my life in Canada, half my life in the United States. I'm a member of the bars both in the United States and in Canada. So I practiced law, for example, for 10 years in Los Angeles, 5 years in New York. And now I'm in Toronto at Pace Law Firm, where I do, as I mentioned, immigration work. But apart from being an immigration lawyer, I'm also a writer. I write for Forbes on immigration. I've been writing for Forbes for about 10 years now. And I've written 4 books. I've published actually 5 books on various themes. If we can get into those as we discuss, what more about my life and what's going on, and just some more information just to sort of set the stage. While I was born in Canada, my parents were immigrants from Ukraine, and so I'm interested in what's going on in Ukraine, the war, obviously, the invasion by Russia, and I'm willing to talk about that if you're interested in that as well.
Okay, that's brilliant, Andy. Do you still have family there in the Ukraine?
Yes, I do. In fact, just I guess it was yesterday, they bombed Lviv, and Lviv is where my family is. Lviv is a city in the western part of Ukraine. Uh, so some serious injuries there, and so not much luck. I think I don't think my family was injured, but there were some injuries there, and people killed, obviously as well.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
know anything
awful.
about the war?
Very little, only what's in the news, I suppose. And to be quite honest with you, I try to stay out of all the politics and the politicking behind it all. I just know that war is awful. Really, I was in the military myself for 10 years. Not
Oh,
that I ever saw any frontline action or anything like that. I was never there, but I'm just well aware of the horrors and the difficulties that come with it.
yeah.
Um,
It's
and
been just a few words about it. I don't want to get you anywhere where you don't want to go, but it's been going on. The war with Russia has been going on for 10 years now. Just over 2 years ago, there was an invasion by Russia of Ukraine. And the problem is basically, to draw an analogy, you're sitting in your house, sitting watching television. Someone breaks down the door and says, "Hey, I'm, I'm moving in here." And you say, "Well, wait a minute, it's my house." No, 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 it's my house. No, no, it's my house. That's on an individual level what it's about. It's a sovereign state being invaded by another state. But why people like you and I need to be concerned about it is because of the threat that it poses to our civilization, in the sense that there were 2 world wars that were fought largely over boundary disputes. And following those wars, certainly following World War II, the countries in Europe, and you're in Europe, I'm not even in Europe, but you're in Europe, uh, got together and they said, "Hey, hey, no more boundary. Like, we've fixed the boundaries. Here's what we agreed to. If you want to change the boundaries, you have to do it by agreement. You can't just." And since the end of World War II until now, well, until about 10 years ago, that's been the state of civilization and so on. I'll just share one more thing on this because I see you're a little uncomfortable about it. But let me just share one.
no, it's fine. Honestly, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, okay. Uh, you might think, well, okay, that's down there. This is their boundary over there. So we're not really. Why should we be engaged in this? Well, the answer is this: when the Soviet Union broke apart in 1991, Ukraine, the country of Ukraine, had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. That's what it was left with. Strategic and tactical weapons. And there was concern, like, we don't want nuclear war. So some countries got together in Budapest in the 1900s, and they said, look, what can we do about this? And they reached an agreement. It's called the Budapest Accord. And the agreement was, by the way, what were the countries? Ukraine, Russia, Great Britain, your country, United States. Those were the main countries, and China and France. And they said, you know what? Ukraine, you surrender your nuclear weapons and arsenal to Russia, and in exchange, we will guarantee, sorry about that. That's a timer. In exchange, we'll agree to guarantee your sovereignty and independence. And so Ukraine said, okay, and they did it. They surrendered their nuclear arms to Russia. And then 2 years ago, Russia invaded Ukraine. So it's not a favor we're doing by helping Ukraine. It's not something of, poor guys, let's help them out. No. It's a commitment we made. Say,
yeah, there's a treaty.
Yeah.
There's a treaty in place.
And, do we want this guy, bullying other countries around, including us? That's the deal. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you on that subject.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is, and I think what frightens a lot of us who probably don't know the ins and outs of it all, especially to the degree you probably do, because you have that vested interest, that extra vested interest in it, is the fact that obviously the countries that are now locking heads, the US and the UK against sort of Russia, really, who are disputing this issue, right. is the nuclear power of both sides, really, and that's probably a fear, and and that's a fear for everybody, and the fact that whilst people don't want that war to go ahead and want it to be done and sorted, they also don't want to be pushed into a world war or into a nuclear war, really, which could be catastrophic.
There's two ways of looking at that. One way is you're going away from nuclear war. The other is you're going towards nuclear war. So surrendering nuclear weapons is a way away from nuclear war. Invading a country after they've given you your nuclear weapons is a way towards nuclear war. Or if we don't do anything, if we just say, oh, well, that's, a problem that, like, just shut up and, take it. Today it's you, tomorrow it's me, and, but anyway, that's a long discussion. We can,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very difficult one as well, isn't it? And I think the fact that with Putin, you just don't know, he's volatile, so you always have that fear in the back of your head that he might do something, I suppose.
Yeah, bullies. How do you deal with bullies? That's a question. Really boils down to that. It's not that do I want nuclear war? No. Do I want war? No. Do I want this headache? No. Somebody comes along and, like I said, breaks into your house and say, hey, this is my house now. I say, oh, no. Wait a minute, this is my house. What do? Oh, well, take it over. Go ahead. Help yourself. I'll just sit in this corner over here.
Yeah.
No, out. No, you're not. You don't belong here. This is my house.
Yeah.
I
don't think. I don't think anybody would lay down like that, would they?
Anyway, it's a tough subject. I know it gets your stomach growling, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want, but it's sort of like, I believe when you face major problems, you got to get right into it, and I'm not interested in, I don't want to create any hardship for anybody. But I when it's sort of like you got to draw the line, and when you draw the line, you have to, if you don't have character, if you don't have a backbone, this is no problem. Like, hell with it, I'll just roll over here. But at some stage, most people realize, oh, it's 1938 all over again.
Yes, it is worrying that that it does feel a little bit like a cycle and a repeat of previous
I'll
stuff.
bet you this. I'll bet you this isn't where you were thinking we would go today with this discussion.
Absolutely not,
Yeah.
absolutely not. But I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
You could
Okay.
talk about.
Anyway,
I'm just quite reserved on the fact because I'm not very well educated on it, and I don't want to be giving opinions on stuff I don't particularly know about, because I think that's just it's not very it's not very tactful of me to do that, and probably upset people if I start weighing in on stuff I don't really understand, if I'm quite honest. So that's kind of why I take a back seat on it. But
we have, you're Welsh in background, right?
yeah,
We have a lot in common. Ukrainian, like I'm Ukrainian Canadian, but I'm, background Ukrainian and Welsh. Language issue, like, do you survive? Is it
yeah,
language threatened or not? Part of the colonial issue is, I don't want to raise any touchy subjects, but there's your identity, and what does it mean, and how do you lead your life in a way that's compatible with circumstances there. Survival of your language and culture. We went
yeah.
down that route. Ukrainians have, we know about that. So,
Yeah, it's. I mean, still it happens in Wales now. There's still, there's a massive campaign to try and promote the language and the heritage, and to try and bring all that back, because it had been almost eradicated and frankly lost, for so long. I think it's only recently, probably in the last 10 years, that they actually made Welsh language a qualification in school that you had to do. Previously, you didn't have to do it.
wow.
So you could just ignore it and not speak a word of it. And
Wow.
I was slightly different. I went to a Welsh school, so every step of the way, from junior school all the way through till I finished school, I did every lesson in Welsh. Everything was in
kidding.
Welsh.
Wow.
Yeah, you'd actually
That's
and you'd actually get in trouble for speaking English in school, because they know your parents, likely speak English. You speak English out of school, so they really hard on you in school to make sure you're speaking Welsh, because that's probably the only place that you're doing it, to try and really get it into you and bring it to the forefront.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I was, So I do understand that. You can lose a lot of your heritage and culture when stuff like that happens, and it can be almost eradicated and driven out, which nobody wants that, really. That's not.
There's some, I don't know, some people say that historically, like thousands of years ago, the people, I don't know if the Welsh were involved, but I know the Scots were, and I think people, it may have been the Welsh also, that there was a migration through Ukraine that came to Great Britain.
Possibly.
I don't know about that. I mean, that's just something I heard.
Possibly. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure, but I mean, potentially. Again, it's not something I know a massive amount on the topic, so I wouldn't like to say either way, but not that I'm aware of.
Anyway, I have a sympathy for empathy for the Welsh. I like the Welsh.
Yeah. Appreciate it. So immigration, then. We're kind of on the subject. You work as an immigration lawyer. Is that to help people come into Canada and the US, or is that?
I'm part of a firm that helps people all over the world, actually. Immigrating.
Okay.
People. And the firm is primarily sort of an investment business type immigration firm. But I'm aware of what's going on in Great Britain and the immigration issues there. Generally, I know that you're caught up in the same kind of questions that we are in North America, especially America, with a southern border and people filtering through on the southern border. Oh dear, I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, so if you want to touch on that, the big deal, I guess, is people coming across the channel in your case, and how do you cope with that? And it's a problem of it's a huge issue. It's difficult to address because it's multifaceted. But I'll just mention a few things about it that might be of interest. One is there's over 100 million people in the world today who are uprooted and displaced. 100 million. That's like a lot of people. And in terms of refugees, there's something like over 50 million refugees in the world. That is, people outside their country of origin and having no place to live, including people who are living in refugee camps of 1 million and more people. Like it's stark. The challenge is stark. No country in the world can possibly absorb 100 million people coming to live, no matter what. It would be like virtually impossible. So it's a global issue. It's not just Great Britain. It's like all over, and the only rational way of dealing with issues like that is you have to have a coordinated policy between many countries. So I'll just suggest one kind of policy that I think is missing that could be used that would be helpful. At the end of World War II, there were millions of people displaced. I don't remember the exact numbers, but something like 6 or 7 million people displaced because of World War II, largely in camps, refugee camps, in Germany and Austria and so on the mainland in the continent. And question is, how do you deal with so many displaced people? And we have a similar scenario going right now. There, a lot of people. So the way they dealt with it back then is they introduced this thing called the Displaced Persons Act in the United States, for example. And what they did is they basically said, look, if there's a group that wants to sponsor a refugee, if they're prepared to look after that refugee, we'll allow that refugee to come and live permanently in the United States. So I'm going to illustrate with 2 examples of how that worked. In the case of my aunt, Helen, my mother's sister, she ended up in Los Angeles. And the way she came to Los Angeles was there was a Catholic charitable group that said, we want to sponsor one of these refugees from the camps overseas, and we'll sponsor her. And they applied, they sent an affidavit of support, and she came and they looked after her, and she came and settled in Los Angeles and made a life for herself in Los Angeles under this Displaced Persons Act. Another example was my uncle, Emil, who came to Texas. Now, he came because he had helped the U.S. Army as a translator. He was an engineer, but he worked as a translator at the end of World War, helping one of the generals deal with all the displaced people from various. Everyone had a different language, and he knew 13 languages. So they invited him to come over. He came over, and he came to the United States. I like the example because the solution was find people who are willing to help these people who want to migrate and allow the people to migrate if they have someone who's willing to help them come over. And in these instances, these people, like, for example, my father-in-law who came to Canada, he signed a contract with a lumber firm to be a lumberjack. So he came to Canada. They paid for his way to come over. And for 2 years, he served as a lumberjack to pay off the cost of his coming to Canada. And then he went his way and they went their way. And everybody was happy. So those are examples. So, in my view, a rationale or a way of dealing with these migrants is set up a program where there are sponsors who will help these people come. And if they can find someone to sponsor, now they can find them either family members, they might be church members where churches are willing to help them, or they might be a professional, similar engineer helping engineer, doctor helping doctor. You know, the variety of the kind of sponsors can be broad. But so long as there's a sponsorship connection between people on one side and people on the other, then I think that works. And you can be broader in your acceptance of people under those circumstances as legal immigrants, widening who can come, but on the basis of this connection, but narrowing who cannot come, making less people come illegally, shall we say, or just I think I'll make my way over to London and live in London. No. You got to have a way of coming over. So that's in general the way I would treat the problem.
How does it work at the minute with the US and Canada? Because they have pretty stringent rules, don't they, on who they accept, etc. And so even if I wanted to come over, for instance, there's to get a visa, I think you get a temporary visa, etc. Then there's a lot of steps that you go through and boxes you have to tick to be able to do that. So what is that? What is the process currently?
Okay, so the process boils down to there are 5 ways to immigrate to North America. One is family-based. So, for example, I marry an American, so I moved to the United States because she sponsors me. That's a family-based application. Okay. Another way is employment-based. I'm an IT guy. I'm a whiz at computers. Microsoft needs me because they got programs that they need done. So they invite me over and they sponsor me to come. Education is another way to come over. So, for example, I want to get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, and I'm accepted at a university, so I come over by way of education. There's investors. So, for example, I got $800,000 and I'm prepared to invest in a project. And there's a program that says if you invest $800,000 with us, we'll help you get a green card. And then there's refugee status, where I can prove that I have a well-founded fear of persecution if I'm returned to the country from where I came. And if I can prove that to a judge, I'll be allowed to come to the country and stay permanently. That's the overall way people come. But there are many millions of people who are coming illegally because the system isn't working the way it should. So instead of rewarding those who come legally the way they should, the system is sometimes rewarding people who are coming illegally and penalizing those who are coming legally. Meaning, if the guy crawls across the Rio Grande River on the southern border and makes it through and he's not caught, he's in the US and has to somehow stay. But if I apply to come to the United States properly, let's say a work permit, and it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get the work permit, you could be saying that it's a kind of a penalty for trying to come legally. So you need less penalizing those who are applying legally and more penalizing those who are coming illegally.
Yeah, can it really take that long? 4 or 5 years to get a work visa?
Not regularly, but in some instances it can take a long time. Yes.
Yeah, that's. I imagine if you get a job, um, the employer's not going to wait around for that long for you.
That's a big problem. So an example of where that happens is a person wants to come permanently to the United States. And let's say they don't have much education. So now the employer who wants to bring that person over has to show the government that he wants to employ this person for some reason, notwithstanding that the person isn't educated. So there's got to be some special reason. I don't know, a skill or whatever. Usually it's a skill. Maybe that they're some kind of machinery based person that can do something that others can't in the United States. So they go through this process called labor certification that results in getting a green card and the ability to work. Now, are we still connected? Are we still okay? We seem to be live, but I've lost you in terms of a picture. Don't know what to do here. Let's. I'm just waiting to see if we can reconnect. You seem to be there, but I've lost your picture. And I don't hear anything from you. Perhaps I should try and reconnect with you. I'm going to try and reconnect with you because we seem to be lost. Let's see if we can reconnect.